About 6 months ago, I moved across the country to a new state where I have a lot of friends and family. I posted about my move on Facebook and times Michael, a Facebook friend, an acquaintance I had met once or twice through other friends, reached out to tell me he happened to be moving to the same city and asked if I would want to get together sometime. I agreed, and after we had both moved and settled, we met up. We became friendly and started hanging out semi-regularly. I have a lot of friends and family in this state, as I mentioned. Work also keeps me very busy, so I don't have a ton of free time. Michael moved here because he recently got a divorce. He has an old friend, 30 Seconds M, who owns a house here, who agreed to rent him a room. They also have a third roommate, 30 Seconds M. Michael does not have a job, so he has a lot of free time, and he is usually the one to initiate hangouts. So, Michael loves to cook. The very first time we got together, he came to my place and cooked dinner. The meal was okay, although it was dairy-based and I really don't eat dairy at all, so I felt pretty sick afterward. I was also pretty specific about a certain ingredient that I don't really like, but he was insistent that he needed to use it for the dish. Whatever, no biggie. However, as time went on, every time Michael would invite me to hang out, he wanted to cook. Either he wanted to come to my place and cook, or he wanted me to come over and he would cook for me and the roommates and their significant others. Each time I ate Michael's cooking, I began to think more and more that I really just could not stand it. The first time he cooked for me and his roommates, I noticed that everyone at the table was silent when eating and no one else commented on the food until he would eagerly ask, "How is it?" and get some sort of lackluster praise. He did this at least 3 times during the meal. Probably the worst was the time no one could finish their plate, and everyone made excuses for why they were just so full they couldn't finish the meal. After that incident, whenever Michael would invite me to hang out, I would try suggesting other activities. We live in a place that is full of fun, socially distanced outdoor activities, so I would frequently suggest those things. He would always decline and try to convince me to come to his place so that he could cook for us. He has told me that the thing that brings him the greatest joy is cooking for other people. Due to this, I kind of started to distance myself and just politely decline his invitations. Last night, I got a message from Michael that he had a huge falling out with his roommate and he was very upset. I texted with him for a while, trying to calm him down and give him some advice about how to handle the situation. He was so upset that eventually I asked if he wanted to come over for a beer so that he could get out of the house and clear his head. He asked if I had already eaten, and I said that I had. It was almost 8 by that point, and he asked if he could come over tomorrow today instead. I said sure. He replied with, "Great, I'll stop at the store and cook XXX dish for us." I told him, "Actually, I am on a diet and I couldn't eat that," but he was welcome to come over for drinks and some video games. He just kept pushing, asking about my diet and what I could eat, and finally suggested something that I would have no reason to say no to. This morning when I woke up, I was so dreading his meal that I texted him that I forgot I had made plans this evening. I told him I'd be home around 8 too late for dinner, and he was still welcome to come over then, or we could try for another night. I don't really know what to do about this guy. I feel bad because he hardly knows anyone here, and now it looks like he's on bad terms with his roommates, and I know he probably really needs a friend right now. But he's so insistent on feeding me every single time we get together. I think if I tell him that I can't stand his cooking, it will honestly be more hurtful than just fading out of his life. After that, started to distance myself from Michael. I would put hours between answering his texts and politely decline any invites. I was also in an accident a few weeks ago, and I'm now on a medication that makes me very tired, so I have limited free time. Then, one night around midnight, I got a text from Michael saying that he was worried about me. When I asked why, he replied with, "You used to be my best friend, but now you just ignore me." There were a bunch of typos, so I could tell he had been drinking. I told him I had been busy and also pointed out that I had actually invited him to do a lot of things with me, but he always turned down my invites. He acknowledged that was true, apologized, and said that in the future, if I asked him to do things I enjoy, he'd be sure to accept. 3 days later, he messaged me again, asking when I was free to hang out. I replied with, "What do you have in mind?" I wanted to hear what he wanted to do before committing to hanging out. He kept pushing, just saying he'd like to see me and he'd be available anytime I was free. I finally gave him a time frame, to which he replied he'd love to come over and cook for us. That was just the final straw, so I sent him the following message. "Hey, so to be honest, you're a nice person, but I'm not interested in hanging out tonight or at all. The time that we have spent together has made me realize that we don't actually have much in common, and when you weren't into any of the stuff I enjoy doing, I lost interest in the friendship. Combined with the fact that I still have so much pain from my accident, it just seems like too much effort. No hard feelings. I really do wish you the best." I blocked him after that. Maybe I'm a jerk for the way that I handled the situation, but life feels too short to waste so much time doing what other people want. I never advocate for myself and always end up in these types of draining, one-sided friendships, so I feel proud of what I said and relieved to be moving past this situation. When Michael and I first moved to the state we live in, we were both romantically interested in one another. We had been online friends for a while, having only met once briefly in real life, and I think we expected more to develop between us when we moved to the same city. I did not mention this at all in my post, because after spending some time together, I realized that I didn't feel that way toward him anymore. I told him that up front, and we agreed to continue to be friends. Initially, one of the biggest reasons that we connected was over our shared love of outdoor activities. So for everyone guessing that Michael was unable to, or disinterested in the hikes and trips I planned, that just wasn't true. He's very physically fit, and early on expressed a huge interest in these activities. However, when he wanted to hang out, he always wanted to hang out at one of our houses, and almost always. This led to us being in situations where he would want to lay on the couch and gradually lead into trying to cuddle with me. So while I disliked his cooking, I just felt like he was never respectful of the boundary that I set when I told him I only wanted to be friends. I was channeling my anger into his mediocre food. I tried hard to maintain a friendship by inviting him to do the things he had already told me that he loved, but he never wanted to, and this led me to feel like he was disingenuous, which ultimately ended with me telling him off and blocking him. Many people read what I did and saw it as cruel, but I felt like this person did not respect me, and I didn't feel like what I did was wrong. However, there's more. The day after I made the post, I came home from work and found a stuffed animal on my doorstep with an apology note. It just said, "Sorry for being a bad friend." I thought about it for a couple of days and decided that maybe I had been overly harsh. I unblocked Michael and I thanked him for the stuffed animal. Then, I apologized for blocking him and told him basically what I said here, that I felt like he didn't respect my boundaries and he didn't really value my friendship because he never wanted to do anything that I suggested. I expected him to be defensive, but he actually apologized profusely. He told me that the situation with his roommates had been deteriorating for the last 2 months, and he was physically and mentally exhausted, which is why he never wanted to do anything. Every time he declined my invites, he could feel that we were drifting apart as friends, but he was focusing on trying to manage the issues at home. One thing he apologized for was being unable to communicate to me what was going on at home. He also recognized that he had pushed my boundaries and tried to move things in a direction that was not platonic, and he apologized for that as well. In fact, he sent me a very long, seemingly heartfelt message that I really found touching. He told me that the day that I sent him that message and blocked him, he realized that between pushing away his one friend here and having such major problems with his roommates, he just did not want to stay in this city. The day he left the plush on my doorstep, he also packed a U-Haul and moved back home to his parents' house. So in the last 2 days, we've both apologized a lot and sort of resumed our superficial meme-sharing internet long-distance friends relationship that we had for a year prior to both moving to the same state. He said he hopes that one day when he's in a better place we can meet up again and I can know him as the person he really is. Not that exciting, but I guess a happier ending than I expected, thanks to everyone who chimed in. Even the criticisms really helped me unpack the issue that I was having. Also, a lot of people really wanted me to tell him his cooking was bad, but I decided not to. It just felt like kicking him while he was down, and ultimately, the cooking was irritating me, mostly because of the events surrounding it. Maybe if we hang out again in person someday we can laugh about it, but for now, I communicated what was really upsetting me, and he had the opportunity to explain his behavior and apologize, so I think it was as constructive as it could be.